AEW has made a huge announcement. Also, is Mercedes Mone leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling? And yes, we're going to talk about a possibly big WWE return from injury. Big E, what's the status? We're talking about it right here on The Angle Show. All right, y'all, we're going to kick off with some WWE news, more specifically Big E, because it appears WWE has discussed an idea for Big E to return at WrestleMania. Earlier this month, while speaking with TMZ Sports, we actually talked about Big E, talking about how he wanted to make the best decision for his life and his career. We spoke about that interview that he had with them, and obviously they're awaiting some test results. Now, we know that WWE, and more specifically the New Day, recently has had a ton of issue with some injuries. Kofi Kingston recently suffered an ankle injury. Basically, it sounds like he's not going to be back in time for WrestleMania. And then also, there were some big things that were being discussed of having the New Day at WrestleMania. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that I don't think if anything will come of this or if that Kingston's injury changes this, but we have heard an idea for Big E to be at WrestleMania, and the three of them would come out together if that would be the right thing to do and if E could come back soon. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, with WWE WrestleMania, if Kofi is injured, and obviously if Big E is not cleared to wrestle, it doesn't mean you still can't use them. In fact, in my previous video where I spoke about some of the news in regards to Big E, I said maybe, just maybe, because again, I don't like to speculate on wrestlers' health. That's the big thing. But if he can't get medically cleared, or if he could get medically cleared, but Big E says, look, that's it. It's not what I want to do. It's not in my interest anymore. I don't want to go through the risk. If he wanted to be in pro wrestling still, more specifically with WWE, there's a lot of things that he could do with up, up, down, down. There's a lot of things he can do with the commentary side of things, maybe backstage role, producer role, creative. Again, these are just things that I think he would be really good with. But I do think if you're going to have Big E and the New Day at WrestleMania in some capacity, it would be cool. Even if it's a little cameo, if it's a little, 30, 45-second segment, just to show people that despite the injuries, they're still together. Everything is good. Everything is positive. And then, as always, hopefully good news comes their way. And we'll await and see what happens. Guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mercedes Mone, because there has been a lot of talk about Mercedes possibly being done with New Japan Pro Wrestling already. I don't know how I feel about this, especially because right now, as it stands, this would just feel like it's the opposite of what Mercedes has publicly spoken about when it comes to going to Japan. The reason for her leaving WWE and kind of going on this excursion is essentially to bring life to New Japan, especially with the women's division, because it is so new. Now Dave Meltzer is reporting that as of right now, Mercedes has no more dates left with with Bushiroad, which is New Japan's parent company. And this ends the last date that she has as of right now is the 423 Yokohama Arena show. Now, the thing that's very interesting here is in this report that, everything is being aggregated. People are saying, well, maybe this is potentially because she could be going to AEW, and if that was the case, she would also still be able to work New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think this is a little bit of an annoyance, to be honest with you, because if she left WWE to go work New Japan and she could work AEW and New Japan at the same time, then why sign with New Japan originally? You know what I mean? Why not just go to AEW, be part of AEW, and then when you go to Forbidden Door, you could actually win the IWGP Women's Championship. I think at the end of the day, we're going to see Mercedes in AEW. I think it's inevitable at some point, but I don't think you necessarily have to leave New Japan to actually make that happen, unless perhaps Tony Khan is like, hey, I'll throw you millions of dollars to sign you right now. And if that were the case, obviously, I don't think you can really reject that kind of offer. But it is very interesting to see that this could potentially be the case. It could be very, very strange, because technically she could still work with both companies, but the people that are signing her checks technically would change, I guess. So again, this is just such a weird situation. But yeah, she's not expected to have any dates with New Japan after that. Things could always change. I'll keep you guys updated along the way. But if her mission to leave WWE was to go to New Japan, I just feel like this is such a weird way to go about it. And you never know, maybe WWE and Sasha Banks, maybe we see that come together at some point. That is always a possibility that I think some people are forgetting about. But with WWE, You never know. They're in a situation right now where they're trying to potentially get in Jay White. Kenny and the Young Bucks are potentially somebody that they're trying to sign. If that is the case and WWE can't sign Jay White, if WWE can't sign Kenny and the Young Bucks, then maybe you throw a little bit more money at Mercedes. And the thing is, I actually hate that way of thinking because I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, this person's the third option, especially in this situation. I think all of them could be beneficial to WWE in a certain way. So if you're the WWE, this kind of goes to show you that AEW being around, you're not going to be able to sign everybody, especially if Mercedes leaves New Japan to go to AEW. That is something to definitely be considerate of and just kind of keep that in mind. Like, if there was no AEW, everybody would go to WWE because they're the ones who spend the money. Those are the people who are bringing in talent and being able to afford it with no issue. Now AEW's around, and that doesn't seem to be a concern. Guys, we need to talk about this big announcement from Tony Khan and AEW. They are setting it up. They are setting up the big dream match, and quite honestly, this is quite insane, especially when you think of AEW as a company and just, it's they have a storyline going on with Kenny Omega right now. They've decided to kind of take a little, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're taking a little step back from that story. Maybe this will play into it, but they've announced the debut of El Hijo del Vikingo. I hope I pronounced that right. I feel like every time I ever say it, I always pronounce it differently each and every time. But if you guys don't know who he is, him and Kenny Omega actually had big plans in 2021, with AAA and AEW having a working relationship. Obviously, Kenny Omega was holding the championship from AAA. So there is a little bit of a backstory to this. I think a lot of people are upset, especially on Twitter. I said this is a terrible idea. And I just want to make it very clear. The idea of AEW doing this dream match is fine, especially because, believe it or not, there actually is a story associated with this one. Unfortunately, pandemic and everything, injuries, it all kind of ruined the plans, right? So I'm not mad that AEW is setting this up, but I just want to make it very clear. AEW has the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, a match this big, a match of this magnitude, which, by the way, if you've ever watched these two in their own respective matches, you know that this right here for the hardcore audience could sell a lot of tickets and it could sell a lot of pay-per-views. Now, I understand Forbidden Door is New Japan and AEW, but I've always believed that Forbidden Door pay-per-view should be filled with tons of talent from multiple companies, including AAA and Impact. So, again, I'm not mad at this. I just think it's a terrible idea considering that you could actually make so much money from this, but they're choosing not to do so. Hey, I'm not going to complain. I don't have to pay for it, but I'm just saying as somebody who's analyzing the situation, yeah, I would have put this as, this could very well main event the pay-per-view, which is my point. This match is going to be a banger. No shocker there. Kenny Omega, really big. Really big proponent of this match in the past. There has been a lot of talk about them wanting this match, and obviously we saw it didn't go down. I'm hoping, and this might not happen, but I'm hoping post-match we kind of circle back to the Elite Hangman Page storyline. That would be really unique. How this match goes down, I have no idea. I'm super excited about it. We'll definitely talk about it on the live review. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you next time.